Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. So today we're going to unpack this truly fascinating handwritten manifesto that frames celebration not just as some fleeting emotion, but as a vital, downright radical tool for personal resilience and societal unity. We often think of celebration as something we only do when things go perfectly right. But for the top 10% of executives and leaders, the text we're examining today reveals how radical celebration is actually the ultimate strategy for navigating failure and stress. Let's just jump right in. We're starting with the author's incredibly warm and frankly super powerful opening hook. They aren't just easing us into this philosophy. No, they are asking for immediate, wholehearted engagement with the very act of being alive. It sets this vibrant, urgent tone for absolutely everything that follows. All right, Section 1, The Art of Complete Celebration. Just to ground us for a second, let's look at the original source text we're analyzing today. Notice the medium here. It's literally just a humble, handwritten notebook page. You can see the cursive script, the blue lines of the paper. It feels incredibly personal and intimate, doesn't it? It's such a fascinating contrast to the polished boardrooms where top executives usually operate. Yet this unassuming piece of paper contains an absolute masterclass in leadership philosophy and how to navigate the complexities of life. Right off the bat, the author hits us with this central premise. It's pretty easy to celebrate the good, right? But the author demands we embrace and actually celebrate the bad as well. It's kind of jarring at first glance. I mean, why would anyone, let alone a high-performing executive, celebrate a failed product launch or a brutal quarter? Well, the author has a very specific, mechanical reason for this. Which brings us to Section 2, Finding Purpose in Failure. So the crucial point here is that the author isn't just saying we should passively tolerate the bad times. Actually, adversity is framed as the literal fuel that generates the energy required to learn and grow. The idea is that without the bad, there's just no upward movement. And they brilliantly illustrate this point using a metaphor we all instantly understand, a baby learning to walk. Think about it. First, the baby fails to stand. Then, they fall again, sometimes painfully, usually right onto their diaper. But crucially, the baby never stops. They use all their senses and their whole body until they achieve that goal with a huge smile and a laugh. It perfectly captures how painful failure is a required, perfectly natural step toward joyful achievement. For sure, it's a great reminder that even the most seasoned CEOs have to stumble a bit before mastering a totally new market. Then, the author extends this whole idea of resilience to the very act of basic survival. They use this beautiful, poetic imagery about the sheer effort of breathing. Celebrate the rising of lungs and the sensation of needing air again. It really grounds this concept of celebration right in our physical bodies, suggesting that simply needing air and having the capacity to take it in is a struggle completely worth celebrating. Moving on to Section 3, The Paradox of Poor Leadership. Now look at how the author uses some pretty emotionally charged language to neutrally set up a philosophical argument. Let's celebrate the idiots in power. Regardless of your political leanings or whether you're looking at a national government or a toxic C-suite, it's a striking sentence. But the author isn't making a specific partisan point here. Rather, they're using this strong, provocative phrasing to set up an impartial, philosophical framework for how citizens and organizations can process incompetent leadership without just falling into total despair. So let's break down the author's specific three-part argument for why incompetent or greedy decisions should actually be, ironically, celebrated by the public. Number 1. The text argues that senseless decisions shed light on darkness, exposing the very flaws that need fixing. Number 2, a lack of compassion from leaders actually unites the people opposing them. And number 3, these actions are strictly temporary. All right, Section 4, Uniting Against the Darkness. There is such a powerful contrast here. The text posits that a leader's lack of compassion paradoxically acts as a unifying glue for everyone else. The author is basically comparing the sheer incompetence and limitations of bad leadership against the uncontainable collective power of the human beings affected by it. And for any executive watching, this is a pretty stark reminder, right? Poor leadership inadvertently reveals the strength of the community and often unites your own workforce right against you. Ultimately, the author finds this profound sense of relief and honestly, a legitimate reason to celebrate in a very simple, objective reality. Time passes. Because political actions and corporate administrations are only temporary, the text suggests that we can celebrate our own endurance and the inevitable turning of the page. It's just a very grounding perspective to have during turbulent times. Into Section 5, Choosing Joy Over Hate. The author makes a super direct, practical comparison here. They simply assert that celebration literally just feels better than hate or sadness. It's a deeply pragmatic argument when you think about it. Holding on to hate or dwelling in sadness is exhausting. For top executives trying to manage their mental bandwidth, choosing to find a reason to celebrate is, hands down, a superior, high ROI, emotional strategy for your own well-being. And finally, Section 6, the sacredness of now. Here, the author gives us some very specific, actionable steps for choosing celebration in our daily lives. They are remarkably simple, focusing heavily on human connection and sincerity. Look at a baby's eyes. Shake a person's hand firmly and lovingly. When you greet someone, do it from the heart. These aren't some grand corporate retreats. No, they are intentional, micro moments where you choose to be fully present and positive with other people. I absolutely love the phrasing here. The author challenges us with this instruction, framing joy not as some passive reaction to a good day, but as something you actively add to every single moment. It puts the responsibility right back on us. We're the chemists of our own lives, tasked with injecting good feelings and well-being into the world, and just refusing to let any moment escape without our positive contribution. We're going to wrap up this explainer with the author's final beautiful thought. Remind yourself that each moment of your life is sacred. It's an incredible call to action. Based on everything we've unpacked today, from embracing failure as fuel to finding unity in adversity to actively adding joy to something as simple as a handshake, I want to leave you with this question. How will you practice radical celebration during a current struggle in your own life or leadership role today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.